In the beginning, we see a man scaling a steep rock face somewhere in South Dakota. He's strapped into full climbing gear, carefully placing anchors and working his way up the cliff. Everything seems under control until tiny rocks start crumbling down onto his hand. He glances up, and that's when things take a turn. A huge boulder breaks loose, crashing straight toward him. With barely a second to react, he swings out on the rope and dodges it by inches. Once the dust settles, he notices he's close to the top. He tosses aside his extra gear and pulls himself up using just his hands. When he finally makes it to the summit, he lets out a scream. It's not from the climb, it's the weight of something deeper. That man is Mike. Later, he's seen sitting across from a therapist, still haunted by his brother Gertie's death during a military op in Iran. She hands him a book, something about survivor's guilt, and gently tells him that he's carrying it, and unless he finds closure, it's only going to get worse. When she tries to put him on medication, he quietly refuses and walks out without another word. My name is Sid, and today, we're going to recap the 2025 action thriller movie, Ice Road: Vengeance. Stay tuned to find the rest of the story and consider supporting my work. While settling into his new home, Mike comes across a few of Gertie's old belongings. Among them is a letter, his brother's final wish. It asks for his ashes to be scattered on Mount Everest. Mike doesn't waste a second. He pulls out his laptop, checks flights, and books the next one from North Dakota to Kathmandu. Meanwhile, in Nepal, a rickety local bus snakes its way along a terrifying mountain road. It's packed with villagers. The road clings to the cliffside with barely enough space for one vehicle. A single bad move means a fall straight into the valley. As the bus rounds a bend, a truck is spotted blocking the path. The driver leans on the horn until the truck slowly starts reversing. But just when it seems clear, the same truck comes barreling straight back, this time slamming right into the bus. Screams erupt, but there's no escape. The entire vehicle is shoved off the cliff into the depths below. The crash is reported as an accident, but it wasn't. Elsewhere in town, Yash, a frontman for a corrupt industrial company, is seen trying to buy land from the locals. His plan? Build a massive dam over the river, but the townspeople aren't budging. They refuse to sell. When the town senator, Mr. Rai, doesn't show up to the gathering, his son Ganesh steps forward and addresses the crowd. He makes it clear, the land is not for sale. That speech doesn't sit well with Yash, who watches on, clearly fuming. Just then, Ganesh's son Vijay runs up, out of breath. He breaks the news. His grandfather is dead. The bus he was on crashed off a mountain, and the police are calling it an accident. But Vijay knows better. He tells his father that Yash had a hand in it, and now they're next. Back in the US, Mike prepares to leave for Nepal with Gertie's ashes. At airport security, he's stopped and asked about the container. When he explains it holds his brother's remains, he's told human ashes must be carried in a TSA-approved vessel. Later on the flight, Mike stares blankly out the window, lost in thought. His mind drifts back to the last time he saw Gertie. Before heading off to Iran, Gertie had insisted he was just a mechanic, far from any combat zone. Before leaving, he handed Mike a letter, with one condition: don't open it until I'm back.
Here, they make us do this, but I'll tear it up when I get back.
After landing in Nepal and facing the usual airport chaos, Mike checks into his hotel and meets his Everest guide, Donnie. They set out in a car, and during the drive, start talking. Mike assumes she's Hindu. She gently corrects him. She's Buddhist. That doesn't stop him from rattling off random facts about Hinduism anyway. Trying to shift gears, Mike asks how many times she's climbed Everest. She tells him she's done it 10 times. That leaves him stunned. When she asks about his military past, he says he was never in the service, but Gertie was. A long pause follows. Then he quietly adds that his brother died in action, killed by a high-velocity round to the head. Mike and Donnie board a tour bus headed toward the Everest base camp. The driver, an overly enthusiastic Australian named Spike, runs the show. Among the passengers is a man named Professor Myers, traveling with his daughter Star, who clearly didn't pack any manners. She tosses her luggage into the overhead rack and knocks Mike's bag to the floor without even noticing. Then she spreads out in her seat like she owns the bus. Typical Gen Z vibes. Donnie watches quietly at first, but finally steps in. She tells her to pick up the fallen bag and put it back. Star hesitates, but Myers steps in, lifts the bag, and offers an apology on her behalf. Meanwhile, in town, Vijay is seen picking up bananas at the market, completely unaware he's being tailed by two mercenaries. His phone rings. It's Ganesh, asking where he is. When Vijay mentions he's at the market, Ganesh snaps. He reminds him there's enough food stocked for a month and tells him to return to the cabin immediately. He also warns him to text only using the burner phone and to use coded messages going forward. Soon after, Vijay boards the same bus that Mike and Donnie are on. The two mercenaries slip in behind him. Not long into the ride, the woman, Jeet, pulls out a pack of cigarettes and casually offers one to Vijay. He politely declines, saying he doesn't smoke. That's when she pulls out a gun and strikes him across the face, knocking him out cold. Chaos follows. The mercenaries take over the bus, gather everyone's phones, and toss them out the window. Jeet presses a gun to Spike's head and forces him to drive to their designated location. Donnie leans toward Mike and says,
"Kidnappers in Nepal. Don't leave witnesses."
Mike quickly comes up with a plan. Grabbing an ice axe, he stabs it straight into the bus's tire, forcing it to stop. In the chaos, he and Tani take on the mercenaries. Mike goes after the man, slams a trekking pole into his chest, and throws him out of the bus. He then takes on Jeet, but she's stronger and beats him down. Just as she's about to finish him off, Star tosses a gun to Donnie. Donnie catches it and slams it into Jeet's head, knocking her out cold. The bus ends up with a broken axle, stuck at the edge of a cliff. Everyone gets out. While they're discussing what to do with Jeet, a police vehicle arrives. Captain Shankar steps out and asks what happened. The group explains everything. Mike hands over both Jeet and Vijay to him. Spike checks the damage and finds the axle is broken, but says a spot weld might be enough to fix it. Mike offers to help. A short distance away, Myers approaches a Nepali lieutenant and asks, "How is that boy?" But the officer doesn't understand English, so Myers asks Donnie to translate. The lieutenant tells her the boy's name is Vijay Rai and that he's conscious and resting inside. Moments later, Myers spots Yash arriving at the scene with a few thugs. He walks over to Captain Shankar and asks about Vijay. Shankar says the boy is unconscious. Myers points out that the lieutenant had just said otherwise. Meanwhile, an alternate bus arrives and the passengers are asked to board it. Before Mike leaves, Myers quietly pulls him aside. "Something feels off," he says. Then it is mentioned that he is representing a number of human rights watchdog groups. He tells Mike that Yash is a crime boss trying to force a dam project in the Himalayas, but the villagers refuse to give up their land. He explains that the town senator, Raj Rai, died in a so-called bus accident, and since then, his son Ganesh has vanished. The boy they saved today? That's Ganesh's son. Myers suspects the police are helping the criminals. Donnie agrees. Maybe they're already on Yash's payroll. Inside a remote cabin, Yash leans over Vijay and demands to know his father's location, but nothing is said in return. With no answer, Yash orders his men to torture the boy until Ganesh's whereabouts are revealed. Outside, Mike, Myers, and Star approach the lieutenant and request to see Vijay. Their entry is denied. Moments later, a scream is heard from inside. Without hesitation, Mike knocks the lieutenant out cold with a punch, grabs his weapon, and they rush in. Vijay is found tied up, being tortured by Captain Shankar. Mike and Donnie immediately raise their weapons and hold the captain at gunpoint. Just then, Yash walks in. Myers confronts him and says the U.S. Embassy has been contacted. 2 Black Hawk helicopters are expected to arrive soon, but Yash simply smirks and replies that no such call was made. Then a shot is fired. Myers is killed on the spot. Mike opens fire on Yash and his men. Amid the chaos, Donnie grabs Vijay and runs. She tells Spike to get the bus running. Everyone piles in, and they begin their escape. Star asks about her father. It's quietly told to her that he didn't survive, but the danger isn't over. Captain Shankar fires at the bus and hits Spike. Mike immediately takes the wheel. Up ahead, he spots a stack of heavy pipes tied down on a truck. He pulls out a knife, cuts the rope, and sends the pipes rolling onto the road, blocking the path behind them. Spike, barely conscious, insists on being carried out and left on the roadside. He refuses to die inside his own bus. Mike places an assault rifle beside him before moving on. The team heads toward Vijay's father's hideout. Up ahead, Mike spots a narrow, dangerous path, a downhill slope with a 40% gradient, layered in ice and packed with sharp hairpin turns. He warns the others that taking it would be practically suicide. Just then, they notice a construction winch left behind by Chinese soldiers. A decision is made to use it for the descent. The winch cable is attached to the rear of the bus, and the slow journey downward begins. Midway through, the winch engine seizes, leaving them suspended. Mike hands Donnie a hammer and says the cable needs to be broken. He explains explains that there's a 50-50 chance they'll survive, but staying put would guarantee they're caught by Yash's men. The risk is taken. Donnie breaks the cable. The bus plunges downhill.
Mike, we're not gonna make it!
Hang on!
Mike tries to steer, but after one tight turn, the next corner is missed completely. The bus flips. Everyone narrowly escapes. Once they get out, it's discovered that the axle has snapped. Again. Mike looks down into the valley and notices wrecked vehicles from past accidents. He decides to try something. Climbing down with Donnie, a suitable axle is found and hauled back up toward the road. Incredibly, the team installs it successfully. All of that done in 2 hours. Then the journey continues. Meanwhile, Spike spotted Yash and his men approaching. Gunfire was opened on them, but his ammunition eventually ran out. A shot was then fired by the captain, killing Spike on the spot. Later, the broken winch was found by the team, leading them to assume that VJ and the others had descended using it. Captain assured Yash that survival on such a slope was nearly impossible. But unwilling to take chances, Yash ordered the winch to be repaired and their vehicles prepared for the descent. While checking VJ's phone, Yash came across a message from Ganesh explaining VJ's delay. To extract the location, a text was sent pretending to be VJ, claiming the route was forgotten and requesting the address again. The message was received by Ganesh, but responded with a location. A biker was dispatched by Yash to the spot, but the setup had been anticipated. Ganesh had arranged a trap and the biker was killed in a triggered explosion. The explosion site was reached soon after, and Ganesh met the team there. VJ asked how the deception had been detected. Ganesh explained that their private message code had been broken. The entire group was then introduced to Ganesh, but Mike suddenly collapsed. He had been shot earlier and had kept it hidden. He was rushed to Ganesh's actual hideout, a mile deeper into the woods. There, Donnie removed the bullet from his abdomen and dressed the wound. Ganesh explained to VJ that they would need to cross into Chinese territory to escape Yash, but since the bridge hadn't been constructed yet, a crane would have to be used to get the bus across. While preparations continued, Star asked Donnie if she could help. She was sent to fetch water from the nearby lake, but while filling the can, a vehicle sound was heard echoing from the hills. Donnie immediately switched off the lights and shut the curtains. Ganesh instructed VJ to reposition the bus and keep it out of sight. As Star rushed back, she was suddenly grabbed from behind by the lieutenant and ordered to stay quiet, but Donnie struck from behind, killing him. His body was moved and his weapons were collected. Impressed, Star asked Donnie to show her how to fight. A simple block and punch move was then taught to her. By morning, the bus was brought near the unfinished bridge. Ganesh activated the crane to begin the crossing. At the same time, Yash and his men were spotted approaching in the distance. Without hesitation, Ganesh instructed his son to leave with the others, assuring them he would follow later. Gunfire was then opened by Ganesh toward Yash's group, though none of the shots found their target. In the exchange, Ganesh was struck by a bullet. Donnie joined in the gunfire, trying to hold them back, but she too was shot in the stomach. Yash moved closer, fired at Ganesh, and killed him. The bus came under heavy fire from Yash's men, but with the crane's help, it was moved toward the opposite side. However, Jeet appeared and retracted the crane arm back to their side, leaving the bus suspended midway. A firefight erupted across the chasm. Mike jumped onto the far platform, engaged Jeet in a fight, and managed to reverse the crane's controls. A gun was picked up by Mike and thrown toward VJ before he returned to the bus. Eventually, the bus made it across to the Chinese side and the group continued their escape. But using the crane, Yash and his team also crossed over and resumed the pursuit. It was then that Star noticed the vehicles following again. VJ informed Mike that the Chinese border lay just 50 kilometers ahead. Once there, they would be untouchable. An RPG was launched by Jeet, but Mike skillfully swerved the bus to avoid it. The rocket struck the tunnel entrance just as the bus passed through, sealing it behind them. Through a gap, one of the bikers managed to enter the tunnel and planted dynamite at the far end. Mike accelerated the bus like a race car, caught up to the biker, and killed him in the process. They made it out of the tunnel safely, but even with their efforts to defend, Jeet and Captain managed to get inside the bus, and another fight broke out. Funnily enough, Star, who had learned a martial arts move from Donnie just by watching her do it and copying it 3 times, used that exact same move to knock Jeet out. The same Jeet who neither Donnie nor Mike could take down after several tries. On the other side, Captain Shankar was taken on by Mike, who hit him on the head with an ash pot, knocking him clean off the bus. Both Jeet and Captain ended up falling off the mountain to their deaths. Mike then turned the bus around, rammed it into Yash's vehicle, and sent it flying off the cliff, killing him too. A few days later, Vijay was seen becoming the new senator of the town. Star said her goodbyes to Mike, Donnie, and Vijay before leaving. Mike then took his brother's ashes and scattered them on Mount Everest. At the airport, he bid farewell to Donnie, but just then, he noticed a rope displayed in a store window, bringing back a memory of him and Gertie Rock climbing together. That moment made him realize he had started liking Donnie. So, instead of leaving, he turned back to her. And that's where the movie ends. What do you think about this sequel? To me, the action scenes drag with no thrill, bogged down by clunky kung fu and shootouts, while the visual effects, including laughable CGI and green screen, look like they belong in a low-budget video game. This sequel should have been left in the freezer. Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.